I nestled in the small building in the backyard of the Gu family villa, but I could faintly hear the noise from the living room in the front yard. Lily Chin was putting on a pitiful act in front of Xavier Gu again. No more than the same old drama of Mia Wen can't tolerate a pregnant woman like me. I leaned against the wicker chair on the balcony, twirling a cup of warm tea between my fingers, feeling no emotional fluctuations. After Lily Chin became pregnant with Xavier Gu's child, she became even more unscrupulous, staying at the main house in the front yard every day, wearing my silk pajamas, using my personal belongings, and calling herself Mrs. Gu to everyone, winning over the entire Gu family. Even Captain Zhang, who was in charge of security, obeyed her every command. Xavier Gu always fell for her fragile and pitiful act. As expected, less than 10 minutes later, my phone rang, and the words, Xavier Gu, flashed on the screen. I directly rejected the call. I didn't even need to think about it. He was calling to question me, no doubt because Lily Chin had made up some nonsense about me bullying her. Less than 2 minutes after rejecting the call, the noise from the front yard stopped, replaced by Xavier Gu's low, angry tone on the phone, full of hostility. Even from several buildings away, I could faintly hear a few words. Xavier Gu roared into the phone, Captain Zhang, take men to the backyard villa immediately and drag the madam to the west side hall. 30 lashes. And don't stop until she admits her mistake to Lily. If you dare to hold back, you can forget about being captain. The hand holding my teacup paused, and a cold smile crept across my lips. Xavier Gu sure knows how to save trouble, even sparing himself the effort of confronting me directly, simply issuing orders over the phone to carry out corporal punishment. He pleases Lily Chin and avoids having to see me, the eyesore, lawful wife in his eyes. I got up and walked to the window, watching Captain Zhang lead 4 security guards quickly toward the backyard. Their steps were hurried, clearly not daring to neglect Xavier Gu's orders. I had no intention of confronting them head-on, nor did I care to watch their sycophantic display. I turned and went into the inner room, locked the door, and unlocked the side door's hidden lock. I might as well go for a walk in the neighboring garden and leave them to find nothing outside the villa. Captain Zhang and his group quickly arrived at the entrance of the villa, knocking for a long time without an answer. They tried the doorknob, finding it locked. The group exchanged glances, all somewhat embarrassed. After all, President Gu had given a strict order, and if they couldn't find Mia Wen, they wouldn't be able to report back. Just then, Lily Chin suddenly ran over from the front yard, tears still on her face, her lower abdomen slightly protruding, looking extremely anxious. She was probably worried and wanted to see if I was really being taken away, so she could confirm with her own eyes what I looked like being punished. Lily Chin walked up to the security guard and asked with a frown, Captain Zhang, what are you doing here? Didn't Xavier ask you to take Mia to the side hall? As soon as Captain Zhang saw Lily Chin, he immediately put on a respectful look. Over the years, Lily Chin, relying on Xavier Gu's favor, had been issuing orders in the villa every day, and often bossed the security team around as Mrs. Gu. Captain Zhang had long been instilled with the idea that Miss Chin will be the mistress of the Gu family sooner or later. Several times, Lily Chin had even arranged security work for Xavier Gu. Over time, Captain Zhang trusted her words more than anyone else. Captain Zhang said with a troubled expression, Miss Chin, Mrs. Wen is not in the house, and the door is locked from the inside. We are worried. Mr. Gu gave a strict order that she must be whipped 30 times. What should we do? A hint of triumph flashed in Lily Chin's eyes, but she quickly put on a worried expression. That won't do. Xavier is furious. If you can't find her, he's definitely going to be angry. Why don't you look again? Maybe Mia is hiding. As she spoke, she deliberately moved closer to the security personnel, her tone carrying a hint of bossiness, her demeanor that of the mistress of the Gu family. Captain Zhang looked at her like this, and remembered that Mr. Gu had only said, the wife, on the phone. not mentioning a name at all. Considering Lily Chen's usual behavior of claiming to be Mrs. Gu and giving orders every day, a sudden flash of inspiration struck him. He mistakenly thought that Mr. Gu was upset that Lily Chen had been wronged, and was afraid that Lily Chen would be too soft-hearted to argue with Mrs. 1. So he specially called them to teach Lily Chen a lesson, so that she could establish her authority in front of Mrs. 1. And Lily Chen was deliberately coming to be punished. Following Mr. Gu's wishes, the more Captain Zhang thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. He immediately winked at his subordinates and said to Lily Chen in a stiff tone, "Miss Chen, we understand Mr. Gu's intentions. Don't worry. We will definitely carry out the order and will not be perfunctory." Lily Chen was stunned and said with a bewildered expression, "What do you understand? I'm asking you to find Miawen, not me." But Captain Zhang wouldn't listen to her explanation at all, and said to his men, "Do it. Take Miss Chen to the West Wing and follow President Gu's orders." 2 security guards immediately stepped forward, grabbing Lily Chen by her arms. Lily Chen was shocked and angry, struggling desperately, her voice distorted. "Let go of me. Are you crazy, Captain Zhang? I'm Lily Chen. I'm pregnant. It's Mia when you're supposed to take." Captain Zhang frowned, thinking she was just pretending, and said impatiently, "Miss Chen, don't resist. President Gu is doing this for your own good. If you obediently accept the punishment and President Gu's anger subsides, everything will be fine." With that, he signaled his men to take her away. Lily Chen's screams and struggles grew fainter and fainter, eventually disappearing in the direction of the West Wing. I stood behind the bushes in the garden, watching everything clearly, the hand holding my teacup as steady as a rock. Lily Chen has brought this on herself. She can't blame anyone else. Xavier Gu was still waiting for news in the front yard. About 20 minutes later, his phone rang. It was Captain Zhang. Although I couldn't hear what Captain Zhang was saying, I could see Xavier Gu's face change instantly, from initial impatience to astonishment, and finally turning completely purple. Xavier Gu roared into the phone. "What did you say? You picked the wrong person. Who did you pick?" I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone, but Xavier Gu slammed the phone on the ground, shattering the screen. His eyes were bloodshot, his chest heaved, and he rushed out of the front yard gate like a madman, roaring as he went, "A bunch of good-for-nothings. Are you blind?" Just as I was wondering, Li Ma, the maid in charge of taking care of me, rushed over, her face pale and her voice trembling. Breathing heavily, Li Ma said, Madam, something terrible has happened. There's been an incident in the West Wing. Captain Zhang and the others, they mistook Miss Chen for you and gave her 30 lashes. The family doctor happened to be passing by and examined her, saying that Miss Chen's baby couldn't be saved. Is that so? I responded faintly, my tone devoid of any emotion. Li Ma looked at my calm demeanor, somewhat surprised, probably not expecting me to react this way. Before long, the direction of the West Wing was filled with Lily Chen's piercing cries, along with Xavier Gu's furious roars, mixed with the bodyguards' pleas for mercy. A chaotic mess. Li Ma was so frightened that she stood rooted to the spot, while I slowly sipped my tea, my mind clear. Xavier Gu probably only realized now that his one phone call not only failed to discipline me but instead destroyed the person and child he held dearest. And the root of all this was Lily Chen's own ambition and disguise. Xavier Gu's blindness and lack of discernment. I looked towards the chaotic main house in the distance, without a trace of sympathy in my eyes. This ridiculous farce is just an appetizer for my revenge. Xavier Gu, Lily Chen, the grievances and humiliation you have inflicted on me over the years. Starting today, I will repay them one by one, and let you also taste the taste of disgrace and unfulfilled desires. The distant roars continued. Xavier Gu's anger and Lily Chen's despair intertwined into a beautiful overture to a farce. I turned and walked back to the small building, closed the door, isolating all the noise outside, and waited for this good show to continue. After closing the door, The noise outside weakened a bit, but still clearly drilled into my ears. Lily Chen's heart-wrenching cries, mixed with Xavier Gu's roars, and the bodyguard's incessant pleas for mercy, were as chaotic as a pot of porridge. I walked to the sofa and sat down, stroking the wall of the teacup with my fingertips, slowly waiting to see Xavier Gu's next move. He has always been protective, and now that he has personally and indirectly destroyed his own child, this anger must be vented somewhere. Before long, there were hurried footsteps outside the door, followed by a knock. It was the voice of Assistant Kim Chin. With a hint of caution, Kim Chin said outside the door, "Mrs. 1. Mr. Gu has asked you to come to the West Parlor." I chuckled. Xavier Gu can't find a way to vent, and wants to drag me into this. Fine. I want to see for myself how he's going to clean up this mess he made. I got up, straightened my skirt, opened the door, and followed Kim Chin to the West Parlor with a blank expression. The closer I got to the West Parlor, the more piercing Lily Chen's crying became, along with Xavier Gu's suppressed breathing. The moment I pushed open the door, a strong smell of blood and a sense of panic rushed over me. Lily Chen was lying on a temporarily moved sofa, her face as pale as paper. The whip marks on her back had been simply treated, but were still oozing blood. She clutched Xavier Gu's hand tightly, crying and shaking. Captain Zhang and the 4 bodyguards who had done the beating were all kneeling on the ground with their hands tied behind their backs, their foreheads red from hitting the floor. A few drops of blood stained the ground, obviously after they had already been taught a lesson. Xavier Gu stood by the sofa, the hostility around him almost devouring people. The crimson in his eyes was even more intense than before, and his hands were clenched into fists, his knuckles white. Seeing me enter, Xavier Gu suddenly turned his head and glared at me, his eyes filled with complex anger, as if wanting to vent all his dissatisfaction on me. Xavier Gu gritted his teeth and said, "Mia Wen, you're so calm. Lily is in this state, and you still have the mind to hide in the villa and drink tea." I glanced at him indifferently, my tone calm. "President Gu ordered me to be punished. I'm already lucky not to be beaten. Should I come here and cry with you? Besides, what does Miss Chen's condition have to do with me? It was President Gu who gave the order, and your bodyguards who identified her. I didn't interfere at all. You still dare to argue." Xavier Gu roared and was about to walk towards me, but Lily Chen grabbed him. Lily Chen cried and said, "Xavier, don't make things difficult for Sister Mia. This has nothing to do with her. The bodyguards just mistook the person." As she said this, a hint of triumph flashed in her eyes, obviously wanting to use these words to make Xavier Gu feel even more sorry for her and even more resentful towards me and the bodyguards. Xavier Gu was persuaded by her, turned his head to look at Captain Zhang kneeling on the ground, and his anger surged again. He raised his foot and kicked Captain Zhang hard in the chest. Captain Zhang grunted, spat out a mouthful of blood, and swayed, but did not dare to fall. Xavier Gu roared, "Useless trash. I told you to bring Madam here, but you dared to hit Lily, and you hit her child away. I ask you, are you all blind? Can't even tell people apart?" Captain Zhang knelt on the ground, his voice weak but with an urgent explanation. "Mr. Gu, please spare us. Mr. Gu, we didn't do it on purpose. You only said Madam on the phone. You didn't say who exactly." "Nonsense. Besides Mia Wen, who else could be Mrs. Gu?" Xavier Gu kicked again. "Lily Chen is just a guest. Why would you treat her like Mrs. Gu?" Team leader Zhang clutched his chest, gasping for breath, and said, "President Gu, we were misled by Miss Chen. Over the years, Miss Chen has been in the villa every day, acting as Mrs. Gu, wearing Mrs. Wen's clothes, using Mrs. Wen's things, and often arranging things at home for you, bossing around our security team, saying that you would marry her sooner or later, and telling us to listen to her." He paused, then continued, "Today you called and said you wanted to bring Mrs. Gu to the side hall for punishment. When we arrived at the small building, we couldn't find Mrs. 1. And then Miss Chin ran over, acting bossy as usual, just like when she calls herself Mrs. Gu. That's why we were confused for a moment and recognized the wrong person. President Gu. We really didn't do it on purpose. Please spare us. You're talking nonsense. Lily Chin immediately retorted, her voice flustered. When did I act as Mrs. Gu? I just have a good relationship with Xavier and occasionally help him manage some household affairs. It's you who misunderstood. Captain Zhang was getting anxious. He looked up at Xavier Gu. President Gu. Everything I'm saying is true. The servants at the house, the other security guards can all testify. Every time Miss Chin goes out to buy things, she uses Mrs. Wen's supplementary card, and even tells the shop assistants that she is Mrs. Gu. Last time Mrs. Wen's friend came to visit, Miss Chin even deliberately blocked her at the door, saying that she was the mistress of the Gu family, making Mrs. Wen's friend angry and leaving. I already knew about these things, but I was too lazy to argue with Lily Chin. I didn't expect that today it would become Captain Zhang's testimony to save his life. I stood aside, coldly watching Lily Chin's flustered defense and Xavier Gu's uncertain expression, and sneered in my heart. Lily Chin calculated everything, but didn't expect that her usual small actions would be exposed in public at this time. Xavier Gu's eyes switched back and forth between Lily Chin and Captain Zhang, and he was obviously a little shaken. It's not that he didn't know that Lily Chin occasionally overstepped, but he had always indulged her. However, he didn't expect that Lily Chin would do so excessively, even deceiving outsiders, and even indirectly leading to the loss of the child. Xavier Gu took a deep breath, suppressed the anger and doubt in his heart, and said to his subordinates next to him, "Go. Call all the servants at home, and the other security guards. I want to ask, is what Captain Zhang said true?" Lily Chin's face paled even more, and she shook Xavier Gu's hand vigorously. "Xavier, don't listen to his nonsense. Those are all rumors. How can you not believe me? I just lost my child, and you still doubt me like this." As she spoke, tears fell again, looking as if she had suffered a great injustice. Xavier Gu looked at her tearful appearance. The ferocity in his eyes eased slightly, and he reached out to pat her back, his tone with a bit of comfort. "Lily, don't get excited. I'm just verifying. I won't wrong you." But in his eyes, there was a bit more imperceptible alienation. Soon, the family's servants and security guards all arrived, standing neatly to the side, not daring to breathe loudly. Xavier Gu swept over the crowd, his tone icy. "I ask you, is what Captain Zhang said true? Does Miss Chin usually often call herself Mrs. Gu and bully Mrs. 1? Everyone looked at each other, not daring to speak. Lily Chin usually acted arbitrarily in the Gu family, and they were afraid of being retaliated against by Lily Chin if they told the truth. But they did not dare to disobey Xavier Gu's orders, and were caught in a stalemate for a time. Seeing this, Xavier Gu's anger flared up again. He pointed at the servant in the front and said, "You speak. Tell the truth. With me here, no one will dare to touch you." The servant was trembling with fear, and quickly lowered his head and said, "President Gu, it's true. Miss Chin always says she is the future Mrs. Gu, and doesn't allow us to call Mrs. Wen Mrs., but only Miss Wen. Last time Mrs. Wen's necklace went missing, it was Miss Chin who hid it, and even said it was hers." With the first person speaking up, the others also plucked up their courage to chime in, each narrating Lily Chin's usual behavior, completely stripping away Lily Chin's disguise. Lily Chin turned pale and trembled, grabbing Xavier Gu's hand and saying, "Xavier, it's not like that. They are all lying to you. It's Mia Wen. She ordered them to say this." I chuckled and stepped forward. "Miss Chin, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I don't have the time to tell them to frame you. These are all your own good deeds. Are you trying to blame me?" Seeing Lily Chin's flustered appearance and hearing the testimonies of the crowd, Xavier Gu roughly understood the truth. He suddenly shake off Lily Chen's hand, his tone full of disappointment and anger. Enough. Lily Chen, tell me, is what they said true? Have you been lying to me all along? Lily Chen was thrown away by him and staggered, looking at the disappointment in Xavier Gu's eyes. She cried even harder, but couldn't say a word, obviously acquiescing. Xavier Gu closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, only cold anger remained in his eyes. He turned to look at Captain Zhang and his group, his tone harsh. You admitted the wrong person and killed my child. You deserve to die. But considering that you were misled, I'll spare your lives. Remove Captain Zhang from his position, and send everyone to the construction site to do hard labor. And you are never allowed to return to Gu's family. The bodyguards quickly kowed out and thanked him. Thank you, President Gu, for sparing our lives. Thank you, President Gu. The subordinates immediately stepped forward and dragged Captain Zhang and the others away. The west side hall instantly became quiet, leaving only Lily Chen's suppressed sobs and Xavier Gu's heavy breathing. I stood aside, watching the dog-eat-dog scene unfold before me, without a trace of emotion in my eyes. Xavier Gu turned to look at me, his eyes extremely complicated, filled with anger, guilt, and a hint of barely perceptible panic. He opened his mouth, as if wanting to say something, but in the end, he said nothing. I said indifferently, if President Gu has nothing else, I'll go back first. This has nothing to do with me, and I don't want to get involved. After speaking, I turned and left, not giving Xavier Gu a chance to speak. Leaving the West Wing, the sunlight fell upon me, yet it couldn't dispel the chill in my heart. Xavier Gu's accountability was merely the tip of the iceberg in this farce. Lily Chen wouldn't let it go, and Mother Gu would soon hear the news. The real show was just beginning. A cold arc formed at the corner of my lips. The first step of my revenge had been perfectly accomplished. Now, it was my turn to take the initiative. Walking back to the small villa in the backyard, I asked Mrs. Li to make a pot of new tea, and I sat on the wicker chair on the balcony, basking in the sun. The drama in the West Wing had temporarily ended, but Lily Chen had never been one to back down easily. Having lost her child and been exposed in public, she would definitely try to win back Xavier Gu's heart, and her specialty was playing the victim. Sure enough, before long, Kim Chen hurried over again, a troubled expression on his face, even more restrained than when he had invited me to the West Wing earlier. Kim Chen said with his head lowered, Mrs. Miss Chen, she's very unstable, crying incessantly. Mr. Gu asked me to invite you to the main house bedroom, saying he wants you to reconcile with Miss Chen. My hand holding the teacup paused, and I chuckled. Reconciliation. Lily Chen caused me to almost receive 30 lashes, and now she's reaping what she sowed, and I'm supposed to reconcile with her. Xavier Gu clearly hasn't emerged from his infatuation with his dream girl and still wants to favor Lily Chen. I said indifferently, reconcile. I have nothing to reconcile with her. Go yourselves if you want to. I'm not going. Kim Chen grew anxious and quickly said, Mrs. Please go. President Gu is in a difficult position being caught in the middle. Miss Chen just lost her child and is physically weak. If things escalate further, it won't be good for anyone. Not good for anyone. I raised my eyes to look at Kim Chen, my tone icy. When President Gu ordered me to be whipped, why didn't he think about who it would be bad for? When Miss Chen pretended to be Mrs. Gu and misled the bodyguards, why didn't she think about who it would be bad for? Now that she's reaping what she sowed, I'm the one who's being unreasonable. Kim Chen was left speechless by my words, standing there at a loss. Just then, Xavier Gu's phone call came in. I glanced at the screen and pressed the answer button directly. Before he could speak, I said, President Gu, don't rush me. I'm coming over now. I want to see how Miss Chen wants to reconcile with me. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds. Then Xavier Gu's slightly weary voice came through. Mia Wen, don't be stubborn. Lily is very fragile right now. Come over here and talk it out. I didn't argue anymore. Hung up the phone and got up to follow Kim Chin towards the main house bedroom. I want to see for myself what kind of show Lily Chin can put on. The atmosphere in the main house bedroom was oppressive. Lily Chin was lying in bed, her face still pale, covered with a thick quilt, her eyes swollen like walnuts. When she saw me coming in, she immediately looked at me with a wronged expression, her eyes reddening again, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Xavier Gu sat on the edge of the bed, his face gloomy. He glanced at me coldly when I came in, but didn't say anything. Lily Chin sniffled, her voice weak as she said, "Sister Mia, you're here." I stood still, my tone flat. "Miss Chin asked me to come here. Wasn't it to reconcile with me? Just say what you need to say." Lily Chin bit her lip, tears falling again, and looked at Xavier Gu, saying, "Xavier, can you go out for a bit? I want to have a few words alone with Sister Mia. Some things from my heart I want to confess to her." Xavier Gu frowned, seemingly still worried, but looking at Lily Chin's delicate appearance. He nodded, stood up and said to me, "Mia Wen, don't bully her." After saying that, he turned and walked out, closing the door behind him. The moment the door closed, the grievance on Lily Chin's face instantly disappeared, replaced by resentment and unwillingness. Her eyes were fixed on me, with not a trace of her previous fragility. Lily Chin said coldly, "Mia Wen, don't be smug. I won't let this go." I glanced at her indifferently. "Miss Chin, you pretended to be Mrs. Gu and misled the bodyguard, which led to this outcome. What does it have to do with me? On the contrary, you lost your child and Xavier Gu discovered the truth. You still have the mind to threaten me here." "Shut up," Lily Chin roared, then immediately lowered her voice, afraid that Xavier Gu outside would hear. "If you weren't occupying the position of Mrs. Gu, why would I need to pretend? Xavier has always loved me. If your family wasn't of some use, the Gu family would have divorced you long ago." I smiled, my tone laced with sarcasm. "Usefulness. Miss Chin sees things clearly. Too bad. Even if I lose my usefulness, Xavier Gu wouldn't marry a woman like you who can't even keep a child and loves to lie and play the victim. You." Lily Chin was so angry that she trembled all over. She suddenly sat up, but the movement pulled at the wound on her back, causing her to gasp in pain and her face to turn even paler. She paused for a moment, then put on that weak look again. Her eyes filled with tears as she said, "Mia, I know you hate me. Hate me being with Xavier. Hate me being pregnant with his child. But the child is gone, and I'm also heartbroken." As she spoke, she moved closer to the edge of the bed, deliberately exposing the whip marks on her back, her tone pleading, "Mia, can we reconcile? I won't fight you for Xavier anymore, and I won't think about being Mrs. Gu anymore. I'll just stay quietly by Xavier's side. Okay, just forgive me this once." Watching her superb acting skills, I sneered inwardly. She was deliberately saying these things, waiting for Xavier Gu to come in and hear them, so that Xavier Gu would think she was generous and sensible, and in turn accuse me of being aggressive. Sure enough, as soon as Lily Chin finished speaking, the door was pushed open, and Xavier Gu walked in, just in time to hear Lily Chin's words. He looked at Lily Chin's weak and pleading appearance, and then looked at me, his eyes full of dissatisfaction, obviously feeling that I was making things difficult for Lily Chin. Xavier Gu said in a deep voice, "Mia Wen, Lily has already said that. What else do you want? She just lost her child and suffered such a heavy injury. Can't you be a little more generous?" Lily Chin immediately grabbed Xavier Gu's hand and cried, "Xavier, don't scold Mia. It's my fault. I was ignorant before. I shouldn't have competed with Mia. Mia didn't make things difficult for me. I'm the one begging her to forgive me." The more she said this, the more Xavier Gu felt sorry for her, and the colder his eyes became when he looked at me, watching them act in concert. I didn't intend to argue, but instead followed Lily Chin's words and said, "Since Miss Chin is so sincere, then I have nothing to say." I just hope Miss Jean will do what she says and stop calling herself Mrs. Gu. Stop interfering in the Gu family's affairs. And stop provoking me. Lily Jean was stunned for a moment, probably not expecting me to compromise so easily, and didn't know how to respond for a while. Xavier Gu was also a little surprised and frowned, saying, "What do you mean by this? Lily never intended to." President Gu. I interrupted him, my tone calm. "I'm just reminding Miss Jean. After all, I don't want this kind of farce to happen again. If Miss Jean misleads others again next time and something happens, don't blame me for being impolite." Lily Jean's face turned pale, and she bit her lip and said, "Sister Mia, I understand. I will definitely pay attention in the future." I nodded faintly. "It's good that you know. Now that I've said what I needed to say, I'll go back and won't disturb Miss Jean's rest." With that, I turned and left, completely ignoring Xavier Gu's hesitant gaze. As I walked out of the bedroom and down the stairs, I ran into the butler hurrying over, looking flustered. When the butler saw me, he quickly stopped and said, "Mrs. 1. This is terrible. The old lady is back and heard about Miss Jean. She's throwing a fit in the living room and said she wants to question you and Miss Jean." I raised my eyebrows. Gu's mother, Mara Lu, is back. Mara Lu has always favored Lily Jean, treating her like her own daughter. Now that Lily Jean has lost her child and is injured, Mara Lu definitely won't let it go easily and might put all the blame on me. The corner of my mouth curved into a cold arc. Well, it's fine that Mara Lu is here. This drama will be even more exciting. I want to see what kind of waves Mara Lu and Lily Jean can stir up together. Following the housekeeper, I walked into the living room and saw Mara Lu sitting on the sofa, her face full of anger, slamming the table and roaring. "Who is so bold? How dare they hit my precious Lily and get rid of her child? I want him to pay with his life." Xavier Gu stood aside, his face gloomy. Without saying a word, Lily Jean was helped by the servants, sitting beside Mara Lu, crying with tears streaming down her face, sobbing as she said, "Mom, don't be angry. It's not anyone else's fault. It's all my fault. The bodyguards mistook the person. It has nothing to do with Sister Mia." Her words seemed to be exonerating me, but in reality, she was hinting to Mara Lu that the matter was related to me, and that I was the cause of this blunder. Mara Lu was indeed hooked, and suddenly turned her head to look at me, her eyes full of anger, pointing at me and roaring, "Mia Wen, it's all your fault. You jinx. If anything happens to Lily, I'm not finished with you." I stood there, expressionless, looking at Mara Lu, my heart without a trace of emotion. What's coming will always come. Mara Lu's anger is just another stepping stone on my path to revenge. Mara Lu's roar made the living room buzz, her finger pointing directly at my nose, looking like she wanted to eat me alive. The surrounding servants didn't dare to breathe. Lily Jean leaned against Mara Lu's arms, wiping away tears while secretly glancing at me from the corner of her eye, a hint of triumph hidden in the depths. Clearly, she was certain that Mara Lu would support her and keep me firmly in her grasp. I stood my ground, my spine straight, meeting Mara Lu's anger with a blank expression, my tone calm yet with an unquestionable composure. "Madam, you need evidence to speak. Miss Jean was beaten, and the child is gone, because the bodyguard mistook the person. And the reason the bodyguard made a mistake is that Miss Jean has been calling herself Mrs. Gu every day, misleading everyone, from beginning to end. I neither ordered nor did anything, so how did it become my fault? You still dare to argue?" Mara Lu slapped the sofa armrest in anger, stood up, and pointed at me, scolding, "Lily treated you kindly, but you can't tolerate her. If you weren't occupying the position of Mrs. Gu, if you weren't at odds with her, how could something like this have happened? In the end, it's all because of you. This jinx." Lily Jean quickly grabbed Mara Lu's arm, pretending to persuade. "Mom, don't say that about Mia. She really didn't mean to. It's all my fault. I shouldn't always cling to Xavier. I shouldn't have let everyone misunderstand. I've implicated everyone. As she spoke, her sobs grew louder, her shoulders twitching, looking extremely pitiful. This persuasion, on the contrary, further aroused Mara Lu's protectiveness. Mara Lu hugged Lily Qin tightly, patting her back with heartache, and glared at me even more fiercely. Look how sensible Lily is. She's still speaking up for you even like this. But look at you, cold as a stone, without a shred of human warmth. I think you're just jealous that Lily is pregnant with Xavier's child and deliberately plotted to harm her. Xavier Gu stood aside, his face growing increasingly gloomy, his brows furrowed into a knot. He looked at Mara Lu, then at Lily Qin, and then at me, his eyes full of entanglement and irritation. Clearly, Mara Lu's accusations and Lily Qin's pathetic act made him waver again, subconsciously feeling that I was also responsible for this matter. Xavier Gu said in a deep voice, "Mom, don't guess wildly. This matter has nothing to do with Miawen. It was the bodyguard who mistook the person, and it was also Lily's own improper actions that misled everyone." Although he was defending me, there wasn't much protectiveness in his tone, more like he wanted to quell this farce. How can it have nothing to do with her? Mara Lu immediately retorted. If it weren't for her, the real wife, being inactive and allowing Lily to be mistaken for Mrs. Gu, would this kind of thing have happened? Xavier, you're just too indulgent of her. You must give Lily an explanation today. Either make her kowtow and apologize to Lily, or kick her out of the Gu family. Upon hearing this, a hint of glee flashed across Lily Qin's eyes, but she immediately feigned panic. Mom, no. You can't kick Mia out, and you can't make her apologize. It's all my fault. Watching their act, I felt a wave of cold laughter in my heart and finally couldn't help but interrupt. Madam wants me to apologize. On what grounds? Miss Qin pretended to be Mrs. Gu, used my things, and drove away my friend. I didn't pursue these matters. Already giving the Gu family face. Now that she's reaping what she sowed, you want me to kowtow and apologize? That doesn't make sense, does it? I took a step forward, my gaze sweeping over Lily Qin, my tone laced with mockery. What's more, Miss Qin wasn't saying this in the bedroom just now. She told me herself that if I hadn't been occupying the position of Mrs. Gu, she wouldn't have to pretend at all. She also said that the Gu family was keeping me around only for my family's value. Do I need to repeat these words in front of Mr. Gu? Lily Qin's face turned deathly pale in an instant, and she hurriedly shook her head. No, Mia. How can you talk nonsense? I never said those things. She tightly grasped Mara Lu's hand, her eyes filled with panic, afraid that Xavier Gu would believe me. Mara Lu immediately defended Lily Qin. Stop slandering Lily. Lily is kind-hearted. How could she say such things? You must be deliberately making it up to frame her. Whether I'm making it up or not, Miss Qin knows in her heart, I said calmly. We were the only two people in the bedroom just now. Did we say those words or not? Does Miss Qin dare to swear to the ancestral tablets of the Gu family? Lily Qin was rendered speechless by my question. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't say a word in rebuttal. She could only keep crying. Seeing Lily Qin's flustered appearance, and recalling the things the servants said in their testimonies, the suspicion in Xavier Gu's eyes grew stronger. Xavier Gu said in a deep voice, Lily, is what Miawen said true? Did you really say those things to her? Xavier, I didn't. Lily Qin cried, throwing herself into Xavier Gu's arms. I really didn't. It's Sister Mia who hates me and deliberately made up these lies to drive a wedge between us. You have to believe me. Mara Lu quickly chimed in. Yes. Xavier, how could Lily say such a thing? It must be Miawen's conspiracy. You can't be fooled by her. Lily just lost her child. If you doubt her again, how will she survive? Xavier Gu was annoyed by their crying and rubbed his brow wearily. All right. Stop arguing. Lily was just injured. Go back to your room and rest. I'll investigate this matter. No one should guess or accuse anyone randomly. He was obviously trying to smooth things over, not wanting to wrong Lily Chin, nor wanting to completely offend me. After all, he still needs my family's resources to support the Gu Group. I knew exactly what was going on, and I didn't plan to force him to take a stand immediately. Anyway, the show has just begun. Seeing that Xavier Gu wasn't completely siding with her, a hint of unwillingness flashed in Lily Chin's eyes. But she didn't dare to cause any more trouble and could only allow the servants to help her back to the bedroom. Mara Lu glared at me and quickly followed, throwing down a "This isn't over." Before leaving, the living room finally quieted down, and the servants retreated, leaving only Xavier Gu and me. Xavier Gu sat on the sofa, his face gloomy, and after a long silence, he finally looked up at me. Xavier Gu said, "Mia Wen, I know you've been wrong today, but Lily just lost her child and is emotionally unstable, and my mother is protective of her. Please bear with her." I scoffed. "Bear with her, Mr. Gu, when I was about to be whipped 30 times. Why didn't anyone ask Miss Chin to bear with me, when she pretended to be Mrs. Gu and misled others? Why didn't anyone ask her to bear with the Gu family's rules? Now that she's reaping the consequences of her own actions, you want me to bear with her?" Xavier Gu was rendered speechless by my words, his face alternating between green and white. After a long while, he finally said in a low voice, "I'm the one who let you down. I'll restrain Lily from now on, and won't let her run wild again. Nor will I let you suffer this kind of grievance again. There's no need." I refused indifferently. I can't afford to accept President Gu's apology. In the future, Miss Chin and the old madam can do whatever they want. I won't cause trouble, but I'm not afraid of it either. Just remember, President Gu, don't involve me in their farce again. Otherwise, I won't be so easy to talk to. After speaking, I turned around and left, not giving Xavier Gu any chance to speak again. Walking out of the main house, the sunlight shone on me, but the iciness in my eyes didn't diminish at all. Xavier Gu's apology and promise were worthless in my opinion. His favoritism and weakness would only make Lily Chin and Mara Lu more and more demanding. Back at the small building in the backyard, Aunt Lee hurried to greet me, saying worriedly, "Madam, are you all right? The old madam was so angry just now. Didn't she make things difficult for you?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. Just a little farce." I walked over to the sofa and sat down, picked up my phone, and dialed a hidden number. The phone was quickly answered, and a low male voice came from the other end. I said in a calm tone, "Help me investigate 2 things. First, how many miscarriages Lily Chin has had before, and the specific details of this pregnancy. Second, the recent cooperation project between Gu's group and Lin's. Find out all the details and send them to me." The other side responded with, "Yes, Miss Wen," and hung up the phone. Aunt Lee stood aside, looking at me with some confusion. "Madam, what are you investigating these things for?" The corners of my mouth curled into an icy arc. What am I doing? Of course, I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine. Lily Chin wants to play the victim to gain sympathy. Mara Lu wants to help her control me. Xavier Gu wants to smooth things over. Then I'll play with them. Since they want to make trouble, I'll make this drama even bigger, and let them taste what it's like to hoist themselves with their own petard. Mom Lee suddenly realized and nodded quickly. "You're right, madam. They deserve a lesson. We can't let them bully you all the time." I smiled and didn't say anything more, my fingertips gently tapping on the phone screen. I would uncover Lily Chin's background and the weaknesses of the Gu Group one by one. When the time is right, I will personally tear off all their disguises and make them pay the price they deserve for the difficulties and humiliation they have inflicted on me over the years. Meanwhile, in the main house bedroom, Mara Lu was with Lily Chin, cursing me with a face full of resentment. Lily Chin leaned against the headboard, the weakness from before gone from her eyes, replaced by a venomous glint. She clenched her fists secretly, plotting in her heart to find a way to drive Mia Wen out of the Gu family completely, so that the position of Mrs. Gu would truly belong to her. They were all making their own calculations, not knowing that I had already set up the game, waiting for them to step in. I will lead this revenge game, and they can only obediently let me manipulate them. I hadn't been back to the small building for long when the butler came again in a hurry, looking even more embarrassed than before. Standing at the door wringing his hands and not daring to enter, the butler lowered his head and said, "Mrs. 1. The old lady wants you to go to the main house's living room," she said. "She said that the elders of the family have all arrived, and they want to discuss Miss Chen's matter, and asked you to make a trip." I raised my eyebrows. The elders are all here. Mara Lu really knows how to call for reinforcements. She wants to use the pressure from the Gu family's elders to force me to bow my head and admit my mistake. Fine. Since she wants to make a scene, I'll play along with her to the end. It's a good opportunity to let the Gu family's elders see just how hypocritical Lily Chen is and how biased and protective Mara Lu is. I replied calmly, "Understood. I'll head over now." Li Ma was anxious at the side. "Madam, the old madam is doing this on purpose. Those elders always listen to the old madam. If you go over there, you will definitely be wronged. Or, let's not go. Or call the master." I shook my head and patted Li Ma's hand. "No need. I can handle this situation. It's good that the elders are here. Some things, it's better to explain clearly, so as to avoid people gossiping behind their backs and turning black into white in the future." After tidying up the hem of my dress, I followed the butler to the main house. I could already hear the voices in the living room on the way. Mara Lu's voice was mixed in, with deliberate grievances, obviously complaining to the elders. Pushing open the door, there were indeed many people sitting in the living room, all of whom were Gu family uncles and aunts, as well as some distant relatives. Mara Lu sat next to the main seat, wiping away tears while complaining. Lily Chen leaned on the sofa on the side, her face pale, looking extremely aggrieved, with Xavier Gu standing beside her, frowning and looking agitated. The moment I entered, the talking in the living room ceased instantly, and all eyes focused on me. There was scrutiny, dissatisfaction, and a hint of amusement. Mara Lu immediately stopped crying, jumped up, pointed at me, and said to the elders, "Elders, look, this is Mia Wen." Lily treated her kindly, but she couldn't tolerate Lily, causing Lily to lose her child and be whipped. She hasn't even offered an apology. Lily Chen quickly tugged at Mara Lu's sleeve, feigning persuasion. "Mom, don't say that. Mia isn't doing it on purpose. It's all my fault." As she spoke, tears streamed down her face again. Her eyes filled with fragility as she looked at the elders, a sight that would move anyone's heart. Upon seeing this, Auntie San immediately spoke up in support. "Lily is just too kind. She's still speaking up for her even after all this. Mia Wen, as the rightful wife of the Gu family, how can you be so intolerant? Lily was carrying the Gu family's flesh and blood. With your actions, the Gu family is going to have no heir." "That's right." Second uncle chimed in. "The old madam is right. You must kowtow and apologize to Lily, and take good care of her to make up for your mistake. Otherwise, none of us elders will agree to it." For a moment, the elders in the living room started talking all at once, all pointing the finger at me, as if I was truly the ruthless sinner who had caused the death of the Gu family's offspring. Xavier Gu stood aside, opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but was stopped by Mara Lu with a look, and in the end just silently looked at me with complicated eyes. I stood there, letting them accuse me, without the slightest panic on my face. When they were almost finished, I slowly opened my mouth, my voice clear and calm, drowning out everyone's discussion. "Elders, you can't just say whatever you want. Miss Chen lost her child and was injured by the whip. It's not my fault at all, but her own fault. You're talking nonsense." Mara Lu immediately roared. "How could Lily be asking for it? It was obviously you who plotted against her." I glanced at Mara Lu indifferently, then turned to look at the elders. "Elders, let me ask everyone, is Mia Wen the only Mrs. Gu in the Gu family?" The elders were taken aback for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Uncle-in-law said, "Of course. You are Xavier's lawfully wedded wife. So naturally, you are the only Mrs. Gu. In that case, why does Miss Qin act like Mrs. Gu every day in the Gu household?" My tone sharpened as I swept my gaze over Lily Qin. She wears my clothes, uses my personal belongings, uses my supplementary card, and even declares herself to be the mistress of the Gu family to outsiders. Even the bodyguards and servants in the house have been misled into thinking that she is Mrs. Gu. The reason the bodyguard mistakenly hit the wrong person this time was because Mr. Gu called and ordered the madam to be punished. The bodyguards were misled by Miss Qin's long-term pretense, which is why she was injured by mistake. I paused, then continued. Moreover, Miss Qin not only impersonated Mrs. Gu, but also repeatedly provoked my relationship with Mr. Gu, even hiding my things and kicking my friends out. The servants of the Gu family can testify to these things. I'm not slandering her out of thin air. As I spoke, I looked at the head of the servants standing to the side. Head Wang, tell me, is what I'm saying true? The foreman's face turned pale. He looked at me, then at Mara Lu, hesitated for a long time, and finally said with a stiff upper lip, "Yes, it's true. Miss Qin usually refers to herself as Mrs. Gu, and she has indeed done these things. We've all seen it." Upon hearing this, the elders all showed surprised expressions and turned to look at Lily Qin and Mara Lu. Mara Lu's face alternated between green and white, and she shouted sharply, "You're talking nonsense. What do you know? You're just a servant. Mia Wen must have bribed you." I didn't bribe anyone. I took out my phone and opened the preliminary information that my subordinates had sent earlier. Moreover, I also found out that Miss Qin had 2 miscarriages before. This pregnancy was already unstable, and the doctor had repeatedly told her to rest. But she insisted on wearing high heels and walking around every day, deliberately provoking me and fluctuating her emotions greatly. Even without this misunderstanding, it's uncertain whether this child could have been saved. Lily Qin's face instantly turned as white as a sheet of paper, and she trembled all over, pointing at me and saying, You actually investigated me. Mia Wen, you've gone too far. Excessive." I scoffed. "If I didn't investigate, wouldn't you and the old madam pin the blame for killing the Gu family's flesh and blood on me, leaving me with a stain I could never wash away? Miss Qin, your own health is poor, yet you love to posture and mislead others. Now you're reaping the consequences of your own actions. How can you blame me?" The third aunt frowned and looked at Lily Qin. "Lily, is what she's saying true? Have you really had a miscarriage before?" Lily Qin didn't dare to look the elders in the eyes. She could only cry incessantly, clutching Xavier Gu's hand and saying, "Xavier, you have to believe me. I didn't. Those are all lies. Mia Wen deliberately made them up to frame me." Xavier Gu looked at Lily Qin's flustered appearance, and recalling the headwaiter's testimony and the information I had found, the suspicion in his eyes deepened, and his tone turned cold. "Lily, tell me, is what Mia Wen said true? Have you ever had a miscarriage before?" Seeing even Xavier Gu starting to doubt himself, Lily Qin cried even harder, yet still refused to admit anything. Mara Lu, seeing this, quickly stepped in front of Lily Qin, saying to Xavier Gu, "Xavier, don't listen to Mia Wen's nonsense. How could Lily do such a thing? Mia Wen is definitely jealous of Lily and is deliberately investigating and slandering her. Madam, whether I'm slandering her or not, a simple check will reveal the truth," I said calmly. "I've already had someone retrieve Lily Qin's previous prenatal records and hospital files, and we'll have the results soon. When the time comes, whether it's slander or not will be clear to everyone." Mara Lu's face changed. She hadn't expected me to go this far and didn't know how to retort for a moment. The elders also started to discuss among themselves, and the way they looked at Lily Qin changed, clearly no longer trusting her as much as before. Second uncle coughed and said in a deep voice, "All right. Stop arguing. Since Mia Wen says she has evidence, then let's wait for the evidence to come out." until the evidence comes out. No one should accuse anyone else. Mara Lu glared at me unwillingly, but dared not continue to make trouble. So she could only help Lily Qin sit down and comfort her in a low voice. Lily Qin leaned in Mara Lu's arms, secretly looking at me with resentment in her eyes, obviously hating me to the core. I sneered, with not a trace of ripple in my eyes. This is just the beginning. When I get the complete evidence, as well as the details of the cooperation project between Gu's group and Lin's, I will make them completely discredited and have no ability to fight against me again. Xavier Gu walked up to me and said with a gloomy face, Mia Wen, you shouldn't have investigated Lily on your own. I shouldn't have investigated her. I turned to look at Xavier Gu, my tone icy cold. President Gu, when you ordered me to be whipped 30 times, why didn't you think you shouldn't have? When Lily Qin impersonated Mrs. Gu to mislead others, why didn't you think you shouldn't have? Now I just want to clear my name and find out the truth, and it becomes something I shouldn't do. Xavier Gu was speechless after my words, his face alternating between green and white. After a long while, he said in a low voice, I didn't mean that. I just think this matter can be resolved privately. There's no need to bring it before the elders and investigate her privacy. Resolve it privately. I scoffed. Does President Gu think the old madam and Lily Qin would give me a chance to resolve it privately? They've been wanting to pin the blame on me and force me to bow my head. If I didn't show some means, I'm afraid I would have already been forced by you to kowtow and apologize to Lily Qin. After speaking, I ignored Xavier Gu and turned to the elders, saying, Esteemed elders, if there's nothing else, I'll head back first. Once the evidence is out, I'll come back and explain everything to everyone. Without waiting for the elders to respond, I turned and walked out of the living room. The sunlight shone on me, and a cold arc appeared at the corner of my mouth. Mara Lu, Lily Qin, your good days are numbered. Back at the small Western-style building, my phone rang. It was one of my men, saying that Lily Qin's prenatal records and hospital files had been found, confirming that she had indeed had 2 miscarriages before. This pregnancy has also been maintained by drugs. He also sent over the initial details of the cooperation project between Gu's group and Lin's. Looking at the message on my phone, a flash of ruthlessness flickered in my eyes. With the evidence in hand, it was time to close the net. After getting the evidence, I asked my men to organize the complete prenatal records and hospital files, and I specially took key screenshots and saved them to my phone, waiting for the right opportunity to completely tear apart Lily Qin's disguise. Before I could take the initiative to come to her, Lily Qin came first, with Mara Lu, looking like they wanted to bury the hatchet. The doorbell rang just as Aunt Lee brought lunch to the table. I motioned for Aunt Lee to open the door, while I sat at the dining table, not moving, knowing that Lily Qin was anxious and wanted to strike first before the complete evidence spread. Sure enough, as soon as the door opened, Lily Qin's weak voice came through. Li Ma, is Mia here? I wanted to come and see her. I want to talk to her properly about what happened before. Lily Qin, followed by Li Ma, was wearing loose cotton pajamas. Her face was still pale, supported by Mara Lu. Her steps were unsteady, looking particularly pitiful, but I clearly noticed that her steps were steady when she walked, and there was calculation hidden in her eyes. Where was there half the weakness of someone who had just lost a child and was seriously injured? Mara Lu helped Lily Qin sit on the sofa, her tone still unkind, but due to Lily Qin's persuasion, she didn't immediately flare up. Mia Wen, Lily is coming to see you despite past grievances. Don't put on such a sour face. Have a good chat with Lily. Lily Qin tugged at Mara Lu's sleeve and said with feigned gentleness, Mom, don't say that. Mia, it was my fault before. I shouldn't have impersonated Mrs. Gu and misled everyone, causing you to be wronged and causing myself to end up like this. I'm here today to apologize to you. As she spoke, she slowly stood up and walked towards me, holding a glass of warm water as if she was about to hand it over. I sneered inwardly. What trick was she trying to pull? Apologizing was fake. Framing me was the real intention. Sure enough, just as she walked in front of me and was about to hand me the glass. She suddenly slipped, her body lunging forward, and the glass of water splashed towards me. At the same time, she let out a piercing scream. "Ah, Sister Mia, why did you push me?" I was prepared, dodging slightly to the side, not only avoiding the splashing water but also supporting her arm, saying in a cold tone, "Miss Jean, I didn't push you. You just couldn't stand still. Could you?" Lily Jean didn't expect me to dodge and expose her on the spot. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately put on a look of grievance, tears streaming down her face. "No, Sister Mia, I know you still hate me, but I sincerely came to apologize to you. How could you push me? My back still hurts." Seeing this, Mara Lu rushed over immediately, pushed my hand away, and shielded Lily Jean in her arms, roaring at me, "Mia Wen, you are so vicious. Lily came to apologize to you out of kindness, and you actually pushed her. She's just been injured. If anything happens to her, I'll fight you to the death." I didn't push her. I took out my phone, opened the recording function, and said calmly, "I started recording from the moment you came in." Miss Jean deliberately fell on her own to frame me. It's clear in the recording. Moreover, there are surveillance cameras in this living room. Do you want me to pull them up for you to see who is lying? Lily Jean's face changed instantly. Her eyes filled with panic, and she tightened her grip on Mara Lu's hand unconsciously. You expected me to come, and specially turned on the recording and installed surveillance. Otherwise, I sneered. How could I not guess Miss Jean's intentions? You didn't come to apologize. You came to frame me, to make President Gu and the elders think that I am narrow-minded and can't even tolerate a victim like you. Right. Mara Lu also panicked, but still tried to appear calm and said, "You're talking nonsense. The surveillance and recordings might be fake. Why would Lily deliberately fall? Whether it's fake or not, we'll know as soon as we check." As I spoke, I opened the screenshot on my phone again and handed it to them. "What's more, I have other evidence. Miss Jean, take a look at this. These are screenshots of your hospital records from your previous 2 miscarriages, as well as your prenatal checkup records for this pregnancy, showing that you were relying on medication to maintain the pregnancy. It's clearly written on them that your body is not suitable for pregnancy in the first place, and that this loss of the child was entirely due to your own emotional excitement and disregard for medical advice. It has nothing to do with me." Lily Jean looked at the screenshots on the phone, her face as pale as paper, her whole body trembling violently, unable to say a word, the tears falling even more fiercely, but no longer the previous grievance, but panic. Mara Lu leaned over to take a look, and her face instantly darkened as well, obviously not expecting Lily Jean to have concealed these things from her. Just then, Xavier Gu pushed the door open and walked in. Mara Lu must have secretly called him just now. His face was full of anxiety, and as soon as he entered the door, he asked, "Lily, how are you? Did Mia Wen bully you again?" Lily Jean, as if grabbing a life-saving straw, immediately broke free from Mara Lu's embrace and threw herself into Xavier Gu's arms, crying, "Xavier, I didn't. I sincerely came to apologize to Sister Mia. But not only did Sister Mia not forgive me, she pushed me and took out these forged screenshots to slander me. You have to believe me." Xavier Gu frowned, looked at me, and questioned with a hint of accusation, "Mia Wen, what exactly is going on? Lily is already like this, and you still won't let her go." "I won't let her go," I sneered and handed the phone to Xavier Gu. "President Gu, see for yourself. These are Miss Jean's abortion records from the previous 2 times and this prenatal checkup record. All stamped by the hospital, not forged by me. Also, I have recordings and surveillance footage here that can prove that Miss Jean deliberately fell to frame me. Not that I pushed her." Xavier Gu took the phone and looked carefully at the screenshots on it, his face gradually darkening. He then opened the recording, and Lily Jean's screams when she deliberately fell, as well as her sentence, "Sister Mia, why did you push me?" and her previous conversation with Mara Lu. were all clearly transmitted. After listening to the recording, Xavier Gu pushed Lily Qin away abruptly, his eyes filled with disappointment and anger. Lily Qin, tell me, what is going on? Are these files real? Did you deliberately fall to frame Mia Wen? Lily Qin was pushed away by him, staggered back a few steps, leaned against the wall, looked at Xavier Gu's cold eyes, and could no longer pretend. Her crying was filled with resentment. So what if it is? I did it on purpose. Who told Mia Wen to occupy Mrs. Gu's position and refused to let go? Who told her to investigate me? I just want everyone to think she's vicious, and I want you to divorce her. She paused, then roared. So what if I had a miscarriage before? It's all because of you. If you hadn't been so slow to marry me, I wouldn't have lost the child because of emotional stress. This time, I'm using medication to protect the pregnancy, also to give you a child and secure my position. It's all Mia Wen. She ruined everything for me. Mara Lu stood to the side, watching the hysterical Lily Qin and then at Xavier Gu's icy face, and panicked completely. She quickly stepped forward and said, Xavier. Lily was just confused for a moment. Don't hold it against her. Confused for a moment. Xavier Gu interrupted her sharply. Mom, you're still protecting her. She deceived all of us, impersonating Mrs. Gu, sowing discord, deliberately framing Mia Wen, and her previous miscarriage. It was all fake, a lie to us. If Mia Wen hadn't found the evidence, how long would we have remained in the dark? Mara Lu was silenced by his roar, and her eyes showed a hint of disappointment as she looked at Lily Qin. She had originally wanted to protect Lily Qin and help her marry into the Gu family, but she didn't expect Lily Qin to hide so many things from her and do so many absurd things. Seeing that Xavier Gu was completely enraged and Mara Lu was no longer protecting her, Lily Qin cried in despair. Xavier, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me this time? I won't dare to do it again in the future. I will stay by your side obediently and never cause trouble again. It's too late. Xavier Gu's tone was icy. Lily Qin, you've disappointed me too much. From today, move out of the Gu family. I don't want to see you again. No. Xavier, you can't kick me out. Lily Qin frantically tried to rush forward to hug Xavier Gu, but he dodged her. Xavier Gu called out towards the door. Kim Chen, come in and escort Miss Qin out of the Gu family. From now on, she is not allowed to step into the Gu family's door again. Kim Chen immediately ran in and made a please gesture towards Lily Qin. Miss Qin, please. Lily Qin refused to leave, throwing a tantrum on the ground, crying and shouting Xavier Gu's name, but Xavier Gu completely ignored her, only coldly watching her being dragged out by Kim Chen. Mara Lu looked at Lily Qin's back, sighed heavily, her face full of helplessness and guilt. The living room finally quieted down. Xavier Gu turned to look at me, his eyes complex with guilt and apology. Mia Wen, I'm sorry. I was confused before, always favoring Lily, making you suffer a lot. And the last time I ordered you to be whipped, it was also my fault. I apologize to you. I glanced at him indifferently, my tone calm. President Gu's apology is too much for me. Everything I've done is just to clear my name, not for your apology. A trace of loneliness flashed across Xavier Gu's face, and he said in a low voice, I know, you still hate me. I don't ask you to forgive me immediately, but I hope to make it up to you. I won't let anyone bully you again in the future. The Mrs. Gu of the Gu family is only you. No need to make amends. I stood up. President Gu, you should take care of yourself and the old madam. What I want is not amends, but peace and quiet. Also, I advise you to pay more attention to the cooperation project between Gu's group and Lin's, and don't let anything go wrong. After speaking, I ignored Xavier Gu's astonished expression and turned to walk into the inner room. Lily Qin being driven out of the Gu family was only the second step of my revenge. Next, I will target the cooperation project of Gu's group, and make Xavier Gu pay a more painful price for his previous favoritism and harm. Lily Qin, who was kicked out of the Gu family, stood outside the gate, looking at the closed door, her eyes full of resentment and unwillingness. She secretly swore that she must come back. She must take back everything that belonged to her. Mia Wen. Xavier Gu. You just wait. After hiding in the inner room, I turned off my phone and leaned against the headboard to rest. The farce of Lily Chen's departure does not mean that everything is over. Xavier Gu's regret and Mother Gu's guilt are not what I want. What I want is to make Xavier Gu truly pay the price for what he has done. It wasn't until evening, when Aunt Lee knocked on the door to bring dinner, that she told me Xavier Gu was still sitting in the living room and hadn't left. I responded indifferently with, I know, not taking it to heart, eating and drinking as usual, not affected in the slightest. When I finished eating and walked out of the inner room, the living room lights were still on, and Xavier Gu was indeed still sitting on the sofa, a delicate jewelry box in front of him, looking dejected. Seeing me come out, he immediately stood up, a hint of caution in his eyes. Xavier Gu said softly, Mia Wen, you're out. I ignored him and went straight to the water dispenser to get water. Seeing this, Xavier Gu quickly picked up the jewelry box on the table and walked over, handing it to me. This is for you. I specially asked Kim Chen to pick it out at the jewelry store. As my apology to you. I'm really sorry about what happened before. I glanced at the jewelry box. Inside was a diamond-studded necklace, luxurious in style, and obviously very valuable, but in my eyes, this thing is as worthless as Xavier Gu's apology. I dodged his hand sideways, my tone indifferent. Mr. Gu doesn't need to give me anything. I won't accept it. Also, don't say sorry to me again. It disgusts me. Xavier Gu's hand froze in midair. A trace of loneliness flashed across his face, but he didn't withdraw his hand, still insisting, I know you still hate me, but I sincerely want to make it up to you. This necklace is a token of my appreciation. Please accept it. I said, I won't accept it. My tone grew heavier. If Mr. Gu has nothing else, please leave. I want to rest. Xavier Gu, seeing my resolute demeanor, could only helplessly put down the jewelry box and said softly, then I'll leave it here. Also, I've already had someone retrieve the necklaces and jewelry that Lily Chen hid before, and I also had them throw away everything she used of yours. No one will ever touch your things again. My hand holding the water glass paused, but I didn't say anything. These things, I stopped caring about a long time ago. Losing them is losing them. Finding them again won't make up for the grievances I suffered. Xavier Gu is doing these things just to make himself feel better. Seeing that I didn't speak, Xavier Gu continued, and about the company, I've already had someone reinstate your previous position as vice president at Gu's Group. From now on, you can also participate in the company's affairs, and we can manage it together. No need. I refused indifferently. I have no interest in the affairs of Gu's Group, and I don't want to manage it with you. President Gu should take care of the company himself. Just then, Xavier Gu's phone rang. It was Kim Chen. He answered and listened for a few sentences, his expression changing slightly. After hanging up, the look in his eyes towards me was a bit more complicated. I raised my eyebrows and asked, What's wrong? Is something wrong with the Gu Group? Xavier Gu hesitated for a moment before saying, It's the cooperation project with the Lin family. They suddenly said they want to postpone the signing and review our proposal again. I sneered inwardly. This was the effect I wanted. This morning, I had my subordinates contact the person in charge of the Lin family, deliberately revealing several loopholes in Gu's plan and hinting that Gu's internal affairs were unstable recently. The Lin family would naturally hesitate. I feigned surprise and said, Really? That's unfortunate. Didn't President Gu spend a long time preparing for this project? How could something like this suddenly happen? Xavier Gu didn't detect anything unusual in my tone and frowned, saying, I'm not sure either. The Lin family was very optimistic about this project before, so I don't know why they suddenly changed their minds. I have to go to the Lin family tomorrow to ask about the situation. Then President Gu needs to hurry. My tone was calm. This project is very important to the Gu Corporation. Right. If it falls through, Goose will suffer a significant loss. Xavier Gu nodded and then looked at me, his tone somewhat probing. Mia Wen, you used to have a lot of connections in the business world. Can you help me ask about the situation at the Lin family? I'm begging you. Why should I help you? I scoffed. When President Gu ordered me to be whipped, why didn't you think of asking me for help? When Lily Qin impersonated Mrs. Gu and bullied me, why didn't you think of asking me for help? Now that the company is in trouble, you think of asking me for help. Isn't President Gu taking it too much for granted? Xavier Gu's face turned red with my words, and he lowered his head guiltily. It's my fault. I was selfish. I know I did a lot of things to hurt you in the past, and it's normal that you don't want to help me. He paused, and then continued, but I really want to make it up to you, whether in life or at work. I want to be good to you. Mia Wen, give me one more chance. Okay, let's start over. Start over. I laughed. A cold laugh. Xavier Gu, do you think it's possible? You personally destroyed the affection between us, and now you say start over. It's too late. I'm telling you, I won't help you. The Gu Group's affairs have nothing to do with me. I took a step forward, looking at him sharply. Also, don't even think about making it up to me. I don't need your compensation. From today onwards, there's nothing between us except the name of husband and wife. What you owe me, I will get back bit by bit. And the Goose Group project is just the beginning. Xavier Gu's face changed drastically, and he looked at me in disbelief. Mia Wen, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that Lin's change of heart was your doing? What if it is? I admitted frankly. Xavier Gu, did you think that finding Lily Qin's evidence and driving her away would be the end of it? No. This is just the beginning. When you were partial to Lily Qin and hurting me before, did you ever think about today? Looking at my cold eyes, Xavier Gu finally realized that I wasn't joking. I was really going to attack the Goose Group and take revenge on him. He staggered back a step, his tone full of panic. Mia Wen, don't. Goose Group is my father's lifelong work. You can't do this. Why can't I? I said coldly. You didn't consider my feelings back then, and now I won't consider the Gu Group. Xavier Gu, you deserve this. Just then, Mara Lu walked in with a bowl of soup, her face full of guilt and worry, probably having heard our argument. She put the soup on the table and said to me, Mia Wen, I know you hate Xavier, and you hate me too. It's all our fault. Blame us if you must. But please don't harm the Gu Group. Okay, it's the foundation of the Gu family. I glanced at Mara Lu and said in a flat tone, Madam, when you helped Lily Qin bully me back then, why didn't you think about the Gu family's foundation? Now you know to beg me. What were you doing before? Mara Lu was speechless at my words. Her eyes reddened, and she said in a low voice, I was confused. I was biased. I'm sorry to you. Punish me if you want, but don't ruin the Gu Group. Okay. Xavier Gu quickly helped Mara Lu up and said to me, Mia Wen, it's all my fault. It has nothing to do with my mother. If you want revenge, come at me. Don't make things difficult for my mother. And don't hurt the Gu family. I can apologize to you. I can give you all the Gu family's assets. Just don't ruin the Gu Group property. I scoffed. I don't care about the Gu family's property. What I want is for you to taste the feeling of losing everything, to make you understand how hurtful the things you did to me back then were. With that, I ignored the two of them and turned to walk into the inner room. I closed the door, shutting out their pleas. I sat on the bed, picked up my phone, and sent a message to my subordinate. Continue to ramp up the pressure tomorrow. Make sure the Lin Corporation suspends its cooperation with the Gu Corporation. The reply came quickly. Yes. I stared at the phone screen, my eyes completely devoid of emotion. Xavier Gu's regret and pleas could not shake my determination for revenge. He owes me, and I will take it back bit by bit. The Gu Corporation is just the first target on my path to revenge. Outside the door, Xavier Gu helped Mara Lu to sit on the sofa. Both mother and son looked utterly despairing. Mara Lu sighed and said softly, "Xavier, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have helped Lily bully Mia back then. Now we're paying the price." Xavier Gu shook his head, his tone heavy. "Mom, it's not your fault. It's all my fault. I was blind and couldn't see Lily Chen's true colors. And I hurt Mia time and time again. Now that she wants revenge, I can only bear it." He paused, then continued, "I'll go talk to the Lins tomorrow. And no matter what the cost, I have to keep this project. At the same time, I have to find a way to win Mia back. No matter how much she hates me, I won't give up." Mara Lu nodded and said nothing more. She knew it was too late to say anything now, and she could only hope that Xavier Gu could save the project and win Mia Wen back. But she also knew in her heart that once Mia Wen made up her mind, she would not change it easily, and this revenge would not end so easily. As for me, in the inner room, I had already made the next plan. Xavier Gu wants to go to the Lins to save the project, but I won't let him get his way. I want him to watch his long-planned project fall apart and the Gu group suffer a heavy blow. This is just the beginning of the price he will pay. The next morning, at the crack of dawn, I received a message from my subordinate saying that Xavier Gu had already set off for the Lin group with Kim Chen and the proposal. Looking flustered and seemingly determined, I leaned against the balcony railing, watching the car slowly drive away from the Gu family's gate in the distance. A cold arc appearing at the corner of my mouth. The more eager he was, the more I would make sure he gained nothing. "Miss Wen, the Lin group has prepared everything according to your instructions. They have compiled a report on the 3 core loopholes in the Gu group's proposal and attached our supplementary proposal." President Lin said that when Xavier Gu arrives, they will keep him waiting for half an hour before bringing out these things to discuss with him. My subordinate's voice came through the phone, calm and efficient. I replied indifferently, "Well done." Also, subtly leaked the news that the Gu group's recent cash flow is a bit tight to the Lin group's CFO. "Remember, just hint at it. Don't leave any traces." "Understood." After hanging up the phone, Aunt Lee came over with breakfast, smiling and saying, "Madam, you look radiant today. I heard the maids say that Mr. Gu left in a hurry early this morning. Is the company very busy?" I picked up the sandwich, took a bite, and said in a flat tone, "Yeah, went to Lin's to discuss cooperation. Just don't know if it will work out." Mom Lee was stunned for a moment, then reacted, a flash of delight in her eyes. "Definitely won't work. Those people helped Lily Chen bully you before. Now they should taste the bitterness too." I smiled and didn't say anything more. I was already confident about the outcome of Xavier Gu's negotiation. He thought he could salvage the situation with past relationships and the prospects of the project itself. But he didn't know that I had already laid a dragnet, making it difficult for him to advance or retreat. At 10 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang again. It was President Lin of Lin Group. I answered the phone, and President Lin's laughter immediately came from the other end. "Miss Wen, everything is going according to your plan. Xavier Gu has been waiting in the conference room for almost 40 minutes. His face is extremely ugly. When do we start talking?" "No rush," I said slowly. "Let him sweat for another 10 minutes. Then send him the vulnerability report, and tell him that either he accepts our supplementary plan and lets us get involved in the project, or we terminate the cooperation. Also, mention the funding issue. Let him know that Lin's will not risk partnering with a company with unstable finances." "Okay, got it. As you say," President Lin replied readily. After hanging up, I turned on my computer and checked the detailed financial statement of Gu's funding chain sent by my subordinate. As expected, Gu's had invested a lot of money in preparing for this project recently, coupled with losses from several previous small projects. Their finances were indeed a bit tight, which is why I specifically chose this time to strike. Not long after, Xavier Gu's phone call came through. I looked at the name flashing on the screen, a sneer creeping onto my lips, deliberately waiting for the ring to sound 5 or 6 times before answering. Over the phone, Xavier Gu's voice was filled with suppressed anger and anxiety. "Mia Wen, did you do this?" Why did the Lin Group suddenly produce a bug report on our proposal and claim we have problems with our funding chain? I feigned innocence and said, Mr. Gu, you can't just make accusations. I've been at home all morning. How could I interfere with your cooperation with the Lin Group? Maybe there are inherent problems with your proposal, and the Lin Group is just pointing them out truthfully. Impossible. Xavier Gu roared. We've reviewed this proposal countless times. It's impossible for there to be so many bugs. And the funding chain issue is known only to core company personnel. You must have leaked it to the Lin Group. Mia Wen, what exactly do you want? I don't want anything, I said coldly. I told you a long time ago that the Gu Group's affairs have nothing to do with me. You're just overthinking it. Perhaps the Lin Group has simply found a better partner and wants to terminate the cooperation with you. Xavier Gu was silent for a few seconds, his tone suddenly softening, laced with pleading. Mia Wen, I know you did this. I'm begging you. Please let Goose off the hook this time. Okay. This project is too important to Goose. If it fails, Goose is finished. You can take out any anger you have on me. Just don't joke around with the company. Joke around? I scoffed. When CEO Gu ordered me to be whipped 30 times, why didn't he say he was joking around with me? When Lily Qin impersonated Mrs. Gu and treated me like air, why didn't anyone say they were joking around? Now you know to beg me. What were you doing before? I was wrong. It's all my fault. Xavier Gu's voice was choked with sobs. I'll never do it again. I'll make it up to you. I'll give you everything the Gu family has, as long as you let Lin Corporation continue to cooperate with us. Mia Wen, give me one more chance. Okay. Chance. My tone was icy. I've given you many chances, and you didn't cherish them yourself. Xavier Gu, what you owe me can't be repaid with just an apology or a little compensation. This project is just the beginning of you paying the price. After speaking, I hung up the phone directly and blacklisted Xavier Gu's number. I didn't want to hear his pleas anymore. Those belated regrets were meaningless to me. Before long, President Lin called, saying that Xavier Gu had agreed to our conditions and would allow us to get involved in the project and share the profits. But President Lin also said that Xavier Gu seemed very emotional and threatened to make me regret it before he left. I sneered. Make me regret it? He doesn't have the ability. Draft the cooperation agreement according to what we discussed earlier and have Gu sign it as soon as possible. Also, closely monitor Gu's financial movements, and let me know immediately if there are any abnormalities. Understood. After hanging up, I leaned back in my chair and stretched. The first step of the commercial counterattack was successful. Not only did it make Xavier Gu bow his head and compromise, but it also allowed me to further penetrate the Gu Group through this project and gain more initiative. Next, I will gradually eat away at Gu's, so that Xavier Gu can truly taste the feeling of losing everything. In the afternoon, Xavier Gu returned to the Gu residence, utterly exhausted, his face pale, and his eyes hollow. He went straight to the small building in the backyard and knocked on my door. I asked Lima to open the door and sat on the sofa, watching him walk in. Xavier Gu stood at the door, looking at me, his eyes filled with despair and resentment. Mia Wen, you've won. I've agreed to your terms and allowed you to get involved in the project. But I hope you'll keep your word and stop targeting the Gu Corporation. When did I ever say I would stop targeting the Gu Corporation? I said calmly. I only promised to let the Lin Corporation continue to cooperate with you. As for whether or not I will target the Gu Corporation in the future, it depends on your performance. Xavier Gu's expression changed. You're breaking your promise. I just didn't completely shut the door on it. I stood up and walked in front of him. Xavier Gu, you need to remember that I hold the initiative now. If you listen obediently, you might be able to save the Gu Corporation. But if you dare to resist, I have plenty of ways to make the Gu Corporation disappear completely. Just then, Mara Lu rushed in, holding her phone, a look of panic on her face. Xavier, this is terrible. The company called and said that several small suppliers we worked with previously suddenly demanded payment collectively and said they would terminate cooperation. The money in the company's account is not enough to pay them. Xavier Gu's whole body shook, and he said in disbelief, "How could this happen? They clearly said before that the payment could be postponed." I stood aside, a cold arc appearing at the corner of my mouth. These suppliers. Naturally, I had people contact them to deliberately provoke their relationship with the GU Corporation, and let them collectively demand payment, just to further aggravate the financial crisis of the GU Corporation. Xavier Gu turned his head sharply to look at me, his eyes full of anger and despair. "It's you. You did it again. Mia Wen. What do you want? Are you not satisfied until you drive the GU family to ruin?" "I just want to drive the GU family to ruin." My tone was calm. "When you pushed me into a desperate situation, why didn't you think about today? Xavier Gu, you deserve this." Mara Lu looked at my cold eyes, then at Xavier Gu's despairing look, and almost fainted. Xavier Gu quickly supported her, roaring at me, "Mia Wen, enough. My mother is old and can't stand the torment. If you have something, come at me, come at you." I sneered. "Okay. Either you sign this divorce agreement and give me half of the GU family's property, and I'll help you solve the supplier's problem. Or, let GU's go bankrupt and let you and your mother be homeless. You choose one." I took the prepared divorce agreement from the drawer and placed it in front of Xavier Gu. Xavier Gu looked at the divorce agreement, then at me, his eyes filled with pain and struggle. He knew that I meant what I said, and if he didn't sign, the GU family would be finished. Mara Lu leaned into Xavier Gu's arms, tears falling, and whispered, "Xavier, sign it. Save yourself. Save our mother and child." Xavier Gu looked at Mara Lu, then at the divorce agreement. After a long silence, he finally picked up the pen and tremblingly signed his name. He knew that from the moment he signed his name, he had not only lost half of the GU family's property, but also completely lost me. I picked up the signed divorce agreement, looked at it carefully, and smiled with satisfaction. This is only the second step. Next, I want to get more from the GU family and make Xavier Gu pay the most painful price for what he has done. As soon as I got the signed divorce agreement, I contacted the lawyer and asked him to immediately handle the property transfer procedures, transferring half of the GU family's real estate and liquid funds to my name. Looking at the progress notification sent by the lawyer, I leaned back on the sofa and finally breathed a sigh of relief. With this step, I not only got rid of Xavier Gu, that scumbag, but also clutched the bargaining chip sufficient to completely crush the GU family. Li Ma brought the freshly brewed tea and said with a smile, "Madam, no, I should call you Miss Wen now. That's great. You can finally get away from the GU family and live your own good life." I took the teacup, a slight curve to my lips. The good times are just beginning. By the way, as we discussed, contact those suppliers for me and tell them that GU's will settle the outstanding payments within 3 days. Ask them to withdraw the termination of cooperation notices first. Li Ma was taken aback. "Miss Wen, do you really want to help President Gu? They treated you so badly before." "I'm not helping him. I'm keeping my word," I said lightly. I promised Xavier Gu that I would resolve the supplier issue once he signed the divorce agreement. Besides, GU's can't collapse yet. I still needed to get back more of what's mine. I just got involved in GU's project. If it collapses now, my previous plans would be in vain. It's better to stabilize the situation first, and then close in after I've completely taken control of the project's core. That afternoon, the lawyer sent news that the property transfer procedures were basically completed, pending only the final signature confirmation. On GU's side, the supplier crisis was temporarily quelled due to the promise of payment. Xavier Gu finally breathed a sigh of relief, but he was also completely driven into a passive position. Half of his assets had been transferred. I had intervened in the project, and he had few bargaining chips left in his hands. The change occurred the next morning. I was video conferencing with Director Lin about the project handover when Aunt Lee suddenly rushed in. Flustered, "Miss Wen, something bad has happened. Lily Qin is back, and she brought a man with her, saying he can help Mr. Gu solve the company's financial problems. They're talking in the main house's living room with Mr. Gu and the old madam right now." My eyes turned cold. Lily Qin was indeed back. It seemed she had heard about Gu's crisis and wanted to use the excuse of bringing money to get back with Xavier Gu and reclaim everything she had lost before. Fine. If she was offering herself up, it would save me from having to go looking for her. I see. I'll go take a look. I hung up the video, smoothed out my skirt, and headed straight for the main house. As soon as the door opened, Lily Qin was seen snuggled up to a man in a suit, a smug smile on her face, saying something to Xavier Gu and Mara Lu. Xavier Gu sat on the sofa, his expression complex, with both hope and apprehension. Mara Lu, on the other hand, looked grateful, holding Lily Qin's hand and thanking her profusely. Seeing me come in, Lily Qin's smile instantly froze. Then she put on a provocative expression. Sister Mia, you're here. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you I was coming back. I heard the Gu family was in trouble, so I specially asked my cousin to come and help. The man beside her stood up, extended his hand, and said in an arrogant tone, I am Lily Qin's cousin, Liam Zhao, and I work in investment and financing. I can invest 10 million in Gu's to help you get through this difficult time. But the condition is that Lily returns to Xavier Gu's side and holds the position of vice president in the company, participating in project decisions. I glanced at his outstretched hand, not taking it, and said in a flat tone, Mr. Zhao is certainly generous, but I wonder, is this 10 million an interest-free loan? Or is it in exchange for shares in the Gu Corporation? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Liam Zhao's willingness to invest must be because he's coveting the Gu Corporation's projects and shares. A hint of surprise flashed across Liam Zhao's face. And then he laughed. Miss Wen is certainly direct. 10 million for 20% of Gu's shares. Also, Lily must be involved in the project. After all, I can't let my money go down the drain. Xavier Gu's expression changed. 20%. That's too much. Although the Gu Corporation is facing a crisis, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. 20% of the shares is worth far more than 10 million. Lily Qin immediately took Xavier Gu's hand and said softly, Xavier, my cousin is also trying to help us. Gu's urgently needs funding right now. With my cousin's investment, we can stabilize the situation. Otherwise, if the project fails, Gu's will be finished. As for the shares, we can find a way to buy them back later. Mara Lu quickly chimed in. That's right. Xavier, Lily is right. Let's get through this crisis first. The shares aren't important. Saving the company is what matters. She was already terrified by the financial crisis and was willing to agree to anything as long as she could get the money. Xavier Gu looked at Lily Qin, then at me, his eyes full of struggle. He probably understood Lily Qin and Liam Zhao's intentions, but right now, he had no choice but to accept the investment. I sneered and stepped forward. President Gu, don't be so quick to agree. President Zhao's investment of 10 million for 20% of the shares seems like a good deal. But don't forget, I hold the dominant position in the Lin project right now. If Lily Qin joins the project's decision-making and opposes me at every turn, leading to project losses, not only will you fail to redeem the shares, but Gu's remaining 80% of shares will probably become worthless. Liam Zhao's face darkened. Miss Wen, this is between Gu's and me. It doesn't seem to be your place to interfere, does it? You're just involved in the project. Not even a shareholder of Gu's. Whether I'm a shareholder or not is irrelevant. What matters is that I can decide the fate of this project. I took out my phone and opened my chat history with President Lin. President Lin just told me that if there are disagreements within the project's decision-making team that affect progress, he will consider terminating the partnership. If Director Zhao wants your 10 million to go down the drain, go ahead and let Lily Qin join. Lily Qin's face paled instantly. She hadn't expected me to use the Lin Corporation's partnership to put pressure on her. Liam Zhao also frowned, clearly not expecting me to have so much say in the project. Xavier Gu looked at me, his eyes full of helplessness and anger. Mia Wen, do you have to be so ruthless? I'm just reminding you. Don't let a wolf into the house, I said calmly. You know Lily Qin better than I do. She was able to impersonate Mrs. Gu and mislead everyone back then. And now she can use the excuse of investing to empty out Gu's assets. If you really want to save Gu's, you should reject her help. Lily Qin grew anxious and cried to Xavier Gu. Xavier, don't listen to her. I sincerely want to help you. How could I possibly hollow out the Gu Corporation? Miawen is just jealous that I can help you. And she's deliberately trying to drive a wedge between us. Liam Zhao also said in a deep voice. President Gu, this is your only chance. Either accept my investment and save the company, or refuse and wait for Gu's to go bankrupt. The choice is yours. Xavier Gu was silent. He looked at Lily Qin's tearful appearance and thought about the crisis facing Gu's. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I promise you, but I have a condition. Lily Qin can join the project, but she can't interfere with core decisions. Everything will be based on the project's progress. Lily Qin immediately smiled. I understand. Xavier, I'll listen to you. A hint of smugness flashed in her eyes, clearly feeling like she had succeeded. Watching all of this unfold, a cold smirk crept onto my face. Xavier Gu had ultimately chosen a poisonous solution to quench his thirst. He thought Lily Qin could help him overcome his difficulties. But little did he know that this was just the beginning of Lily Qin and Liam Zhao's slow consumption of the Gu Corporation. As for me, I only need to sit back and watch the tigers fight, waiting for them to turn on each other. Then I can swoop in and reap the benefits. That evening, the lawyer brought over the final property transfer documents. After I signed, I was completely separated from the Gu family in terms of property. I instructed my subordinates to transfer a portion of the funds to a secure account, and the remainder was invested in the Lin Corporation's project to further consolidate my control. Meanwhile, in the main residence, Lily Qin and Liam Zhao were plotting something. Liam Zhao sat on the sofa, his face gloomy. I didn't expect Miawen to have so much say in the project. It seems we need to find a way to kick her out of it. Lily Qin held her wine glass, her eyes filled with resentment. Cousin, don't worry. I have a plan. Xavier Gu still feels guilty towards me. So as long as I whisper sweet nothings in his ear and create some trouble, making him mistakenly believe it was Miawen's doing, I can get him to kick Miawen out of the project. When that happens, the Gu's project and shares will all be ours. Their conversation reached my ears. Not missing a single word, I had anticipated their sneaky actions. So I specifically asked Mrs. Li to install a miniature recording device in the main house's living room. Leaning against the headboard, I listened to the conspiracy in the recording, a mocking smile playing on my lips. Lily Qin, Liam Zhao, your little schemes are not enough to deceive me. Since you want to play, I'll play along, and we'll see who has the last laugh. I picked up my phone and sent a message to General Manager Lin. Keep a close eye on Lily Qin and Liam Zhao. They may try to sabotage the project. Also, prepare a backup plan, and once they cause trouble, we will immediately activate it to completely undermine the Gu's influence. Understood, Miss Wen. Don't worry, I've already made the arrangements. Lin replied quickly. Hanging up the phone, I looked at the night outside the window, my eyes clear. The fragile alliance between Xavier Gu and Lily Qin is destined not to last, and I am fully prepared, waiting for them to slip up so I can deliver a fatal blow and completely end this revenge game. The next morning, the Gu's group held a project promotion meeting. Lily Qin, as expected, was dressed in a smart business suit, sitting at the conference table as the vice president. Liam Zhao attended as a representative of the investors. In the exchange of glances between the two, there was a subtle calculation hidden. As I walked into the conference room with the project documents, I happened to see Lily Qin secretly looking through my notebook. When she saw me come in, she hastily closed the notebook, pretending to be calm and looking away. MS1. Everyone is here. We can begin. General Lin stood up with a smile, a hint of wariness in his eyes as he glanced over Lily Qin. He had already followed my instructions and arranged for people to monitor Lily Qin's every move, even informing me of her sneaking into my office last night to search for documents. At the start of the meeting, Xavier Gu briefly explained the project progress, then gestured for Lily Qin to add details. Lily Qin cleared her throat, took out a tampered financial statement, and said with certainty, "Everyone, I've discovered a 500,000 funding gap in the project. After checking the accounts, I found that the money's whereabouts are unknown, and Miss Wen is responsible for the account reconciliation. I suspect that Miss Wen has used her position to embezzle project funds." As soon as she finished speaking, the conference room fell silent. Xavier Gu's face changed, and the look in his eyes as he looked at me was full of disbelief. "Mia Wen, what is going on?" Liam Zhao leaned back in his chair, a smug smile on his lips, clearly feeling that Lily Qin's plan was flawless. I chuckled, picked up the USB drive on the table, and plugged it into the projector. Vice President Qin is really good at making false accusations. This 500,000 is not a shortfall at all, but an advance payment to the raw material supplier, with contracts and transfer records as proof. On the contrary, you sneaked into my office last night, tampered with the financial statements, and tried to steal my original accounts. All of this was caught on surveillance. As I pressed the play button, Lily Qin's footage of rummaging through files and tampering with reports in the office last night clearly appeared on the screen, and even the recording of her phone call with Liam Zhao was played. "Cousin, I've changed the report. I can definitely frame Mia Wen when she's kicked out of the project. We can take control. Don't worry. I've arranged for people to keep an eye on things, and there won't be any problems." Lily Qin's face turned deathly pale in an instant, her whole body trembling as she pointed at me and screamed, "You did it on purpose. You knew all along what I was going to do, and deliberately set a trap to frame me." "So what?" I said coldly. "I warned President Gu long ago what kind of person you are. You insisted on walking into the trap yourselves. Besides, I also found out that President Zhao's so-called 10 million investment is not his own money at all, but embezzled from the company's funds. If he can't return it before the deadline, he will not only bear legal responsibility, but also face huge compensation." "Right." Liam Zhao's expression changed drastically, and he suddenly stood up. "You're talking nonsense. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, you know it in your heart." I took out a bank statement and an audit report. "This is the record of your company's fund flows, as well as the report issued by the auditor, which clearly shows that you embezzled 10 million yuan of public funds to inject capital into Gu's, with the aim of profiting from Gu's projects and filling your own company's deficit. Unfortunately, you miscalculated." Xavier Gu looked at the evidence before him, then at Lily Qin and Liam Zhao, his eyes filled with anger and remorse. He slammed his hand on the table and roared at Lily Qin, "You lied to me. You and your cousin never intended to help me. You wanted to drain the Gu family." Lily Qin burst into tears and rushed forward, trying to grab Xavier Gu's hand. "Xavier, I didn't do it on purpose. My cousin forced me to. I just wanted to stay by your side and help you save the company. Don't touch me." Xavier Gu pushed her away. "I was really blind to believe you again. From today onwards, you and Liam Zhao are never allowed to step into Gu's again. Our cooperation is completely terminated." Seeing this, Liam Zhao knew he was exposed and stopped pretending, saying fiercely, "Xavier Gu, don't push your luck. If I don't get the project profits, I'll expose your embezzlement of company funds to cover losses, and we'll all go down together. You think I'm afraid of you?" Xavier Gu sneered. "I can hand over the evidence of your embezzlement to the police right now. It's you who should be thinking about how to face imprisonment." Just then, the meeting room door was pushed open, and several police officers walked in, presenting an arrest warrant. "Liam Zhao, we suspect you of embezzlement. Please come with us." Liam Zhao's face turned pale, and he struggled as the police led him away. Lily Qin, watching Liam Zhao's retreating figure, completely broke down and collapsed to the ground, crying loudly. Xavier Gu looked at her, his eyes devoid of any pity, leaving only cold disgust. "Drag her out, and if she dares to come to the Gu family or Gu Corporation again, call the police." The servants immediately stepped forward, supporting Lily Qin as they walked her out of the conference room. Lily Chen's cries grew fainter and fainter, eventually disappearing at the end of the corridor. The farce she had started ultimately ended in her crushing defeat. Silence finally returned to the conference room. Xavier Gu leaned back in his chair, his face filled with fatigue and regret. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. Mia Wen. Thank you. If it weren't for you, Gu's would have been hollowed out by them long ago. I'm not helping you. I just don't want my project to be ruined, I said indifferently. Now that Lily Chen and Liam Zhao's affair is resolved, the crisis at Gu's is not over. If you don't handle the matter of misappropriating company funds properly, it will still affect the project. Xavier Gu gave a bitter smile. I know. I will raise money to cover the deficit as soon as possible. If that doesn't work, I will transfer the remaining shares of Gu's and completely withdraw from the project. No need. I took out an agreement I had prepared long ago. This is the transfer agreement for the remaining 80% of Gu's shares. I can acquire them at a premium to help you cover the losses and save your father's lifelong work. But the condition is that you must completely withdraw from the business world and never interfere with Gu's and the project in any way. Xavier Gu looked at the agreement, his eyes full of surprise. Then a relieved smile appeared. Okay. I promise you. Thank you for being willing to leave a little room for the Gu family. He picked up the pen and signed his name without hesitation. From that moment on, Gu's group was completely owned by me, and my years of forbearance and revenge finally came to an end. After the meeting, General Manager Lin said with a smile, MS. 1. Congratulations on completely controlling Gu's and the project. We will work together in the future, and we will definitely make the project a great success. I nodded, but my heart was unusually calm. After the thrill of revenge faded, what remained was not emptiness, but liberation. I asked the lawyer to expedite the share transfer procedures and arranged for someone to reorganize Gu's internally, cleaning up the mess left by Lily Chen and Liam Zhao. In the evening, I returned to the small villa in the backyard of the Gu family. Aunt Li had already packed her luggage. Miss Wen, when are we leaving? I looked at the sunset outside the window, a gentle smile curving on my lips. No rush. Once the project is on track, we'll travel around the world and live the good life that truly belongs to us. The past hatred had long dissipated with the downfall of Lily Chen and Liam Zhao, and the withdrawal of Xavier Gu. I had finally broken free from the shackles of the Gu family, seizing control of my own life. For the rest of my life, there will be no scheming, no harm, only endless light and freedom.